Think sleeping outdoors is scary today? Try doing it when rattlesnakes could slither into your bedroll at any moment. Cowboys in the Wild West didn't have the luxury of hotels or even cabins. They slept under the open sky for months at a time, knowing that deadly serpents, wolves, and worse were prowling in the darkness just feet away. Yet somehow these tough frontiersmen managed to get quality rest night after night, using ingenious techniques that kept them alive and alert. Today we're discovering 12 forgotten cowboy survival methods that turned the deadly prairie into a bedroom, and how you can use these same principles to sleep better anywhere. The rattlesnake rope circle, ancient snake protection that actually works. Picture this: you're bone tired after 16 hours in the saddle, ready to collapse onto your bedroll, but you know rattlesnakes are hunting in the darkness around you. What do? Old-time cowboys swore by a simple but effective technique, the rope circle. They'd take a horsehair rope and lay it in a perfect circle around their sleeping area, believing that snakes wouldn't cross the rough, prickly texture. The technique wasn't just superstition. It was based on careful observation of snake behavior. Cowboys noticed that rattlesnakes preferred to travel along smooth surfaces like game trails, avoiding areas with rough or irregular textures. The horsehair rope, with its coarse fibers and uneven surface, created an uncomfortable barrier that most serpents would simply go around rather than cross. Modern herpetologists have found there's actually science behind this old cowboy wisdom. While snakes can physically cross rope, they strongly prefer smooth surfaces for travel and will typically avoid rough, irregular textures when possible. The horsehair rope created an uncomfortable barrier that most rattlesnakes would simply go around rather than cross. It's like having a "do not disturb" sign that speaks snake language. You can apply this principle today when camping by creating textured barriers around your sleeping area using rough rope, pine cones, or even strips of sandpaper. While it's not 100% foolproof, it's a simple deterrent that costs nothing and might just save your life. But rope circles were just the beginning of cowboy snake defense. Their bedroll design was even more ingenious. The all-weather bedroll, your portable fortress against the elements. Cowboys didn't just throw a blanket on the ground and hope for the best. Their bedroll was an engineering marvel disguised as simple gear. The outer layer was heavy canvas, waterproofed with linseed oil or beeswax, creating a shell tougher than most modern tents. Inside, they packed wool blankets, sometimes 3 or 4 layers, because wool keeps you warm, even when wet. The construction process was methodical and precise. Cowboys would start with a canvas tarp, measuring roughly 7 by 16 feet. Treating it with multiple coats of waterproofing compound. They'd test the waterproofing regularly, knowing that a single leak could mean hypothermia or worse. The canvas had to be thick enough to resist punctures from thorns and rocks, yet flexible enough to roll up tightly. But here's the genius part. They included a ground cloth made from oiled canvas or rubber that went underneath everything. This created a moisture barrier that kept ground dampness from soaking through, while the wool above trapped body heat, like a personal furnace. The whole system rolled up tight with leather straps, creating a waterproof bundle that could be tied to a saddle or wagon. The rolling technique itself was an art form. Cowboys learned to fold and roll their bedrolls so tightly that water couldn't penetrate the seams, yet they could be unrolled quickly when needed. A properly rolled bedroll was completely waterproof and could even float across streams if necessary. Modern sleeping bags borrowed heavily from this design, but you can upgrade your camping setup today by adding a quality ground cloth and wool blanket to your gear. It's like having a climate-controlled bedroom that fits in a backpack. Of course, even the best bedroll was useless if you picked the wrong place to put it. Strategic campsite selection. Reading the land like a survival manual. Cowboys knew that picking the wrong spot to sleep could mean waking up dead, or not waking up at all. They avoided dry creek beds that could flash flood, stayed clear of game trails where predators hunted, and never camped under dead branches they called widowmakers. But their snake awareness was particularly sharp. Experienced trail hands developed an almost supernatural ability to read the landscape for danger signs. They looked for subtle clues that most people would miss. The way grass bent in certain areas, indicating animal paths. The presence of specific plants that thrived in areas snakes preferred. Even the sound the wind made as it moved through different types of terrain. Experienced trail hands looked for elevated, rocky areas where rattlesnakes were less likely to hunt. And they always avoided thick brush or tall grass where serpents could hide. They'd clear a wide area around their bedroll, removing rocks, logs, and debris that could shelter a coiled rattler. Some cowboys even carried a long stick to probe suspicious areas before setting up camp. Water proximity was another crucial factor. Cowboys needed to be close enough to water sources for convenience, but far enough away to avoid the increased animal activity around watering holes. They learned to identify the optimal distance, usually 100 to 200 yards from water, that balanced accessibility with safety. The science backs up their instincts. Rattlesnakes prefer areas with cover and are less active on exposed, elevated ground. Today's campers can use the same principles by choosing open, elevated campsites and thoroughly clearing the area before setting up. Smart campsite selection was just the first step. Staying alive required constant vigilance. And if you are enjoying rustling up the past with us, then go ahead and lasso that like button and subscribe for more interesting facts from the Wild West historian. The Night Watch system, staying alert when danger never sleeps. Sleep was a luxury no cowboy could afford in full. They developed a rotation system where someone was always awake, watching for rustlers, predators, and yes, snakes. The Night Watch wasn't just about protecting cattle. It was about protecting sleeping cowboys from the dangers that came alive after dark. The watch system was carefully organized, with each cowboy taking a specific shift based on his experience and skills. Newer hands often took the early evening watch when dangers were fewer, while experienced cowboys handled the dangerous pre-dawn hours when predators were most active and rustlers most likely to strike. Guards would walk the perimeter of camp every hour, carrying lanterns or torches to spot the telltale glint of snake eyes reflecting in the light. They learned to recognize the distinctive sound of a rattlesnake's warning, a sound that could save lives if heard in time. The constant movement and light also helped keep most predators at a respectful distance. Communication between guards was crucial, but had to be subtle. They used specific whistle patterns, hand signals, and even arranged objects to leave messages for the next watch. A misplaced rock or stick could warn the next guard about a potential threat in a specific area. Modern research shows this approach was brilliant. Most snake bites occur when people accidentally step on or surprise a snake. By maintaining active patrols with light sources, cowboys created a buffer zone of awareness around their sleeping area. You can apply this today by setting up motion-activated lights around your campsite or taking periodic walks with a flashlight before settling in for the night. But even the most vigilant guard needed nature's own warning system to stay ahead of danger. Weather reading, predicting storms before they strike. Cowboys became human barometers out of necessity. A sudden storm could mean hypothermia, flash floods, or being trapped in the open with no shelter. They watched cloud formations, wind patterns, and animal behavior to predict weather changes hours in advance. When horses grew restless or cattle bunched together, experienced hands knew to prepare for rough weather. The ability to read clouds was particularly crucial. Cowboys learned to distinguish between harmless, fair-weather clouds and the towering cumulonimbus formations that brought deadly lightning and hail. They could predict wind direction changes by watching how clouds moved at different altitudes, and they knew that certain cloud colors at sunset indicated specific weather patterns for the following day. They also understood that certain weather conditions made snake encounters more likely. Warm, humid evenings brought rattlesnakes out to hunt, while sudden temperature drops could make serpents sluggish and more likely to seek warm hiding spots, like a cowboy's bedroll. Smart trail hands adjusted their sleeping arrangements based on these patterns. Animal behavior provided another layer of weather prediction. Cowboys noticed that birds flew lower before storms, that insects became more active before rain, and that even cattle would seek shelter before humans felt the first drops. They learned to trust these natural weather forecasters more than their own senses. Temperature and humidity patterns throughout the day also provided clues about coming weather. Cowboys could predict nighttime conditions by observing how quickly temperatures dropped after sunset, how dew formed on grass, and how sounds carried differently through air of varying density. The ability to read natural weather signs is just as valuable today. Sudden humidity, restless animals, and certain cloud formations still predict storms with remarkable accuracy. It's like having a weather app written in the language of nature itself. When storms did hit, survival depended on what cowboys wore as much as where they sheltered. Layered clothing systems. Staying warm when your life depends on it. Cowboys mastered the art of layering long before it became a fashion trend. They wore wool long johns as a base layer, cotton or wool shirts in the middle, and canvas or leather outer layers for protection. Wool was their secret weapon. It insulated even when wet and naturally repelled many insects and small creatures that might otherwise crawl into clothing. The base layer was crucial for temperature regulation. Cowboys chose wool long johns not just for warmth, but because wool wicks moisture away from the skin while maintaining insulation properties. This prevented the dangerous cooling that occurs when cotton clothing becomes saturated with sweat during physical activity. Their wide-brimmed hats weren't just for sun protection. They shed rain and helped maintain body heat. Bandanas served multiple purposes: dust protection during the day, neck warmth at night, and even emergency bandages. Some cowboys tucked their pants into their boots and tied them tight, partly for protection from thorns, but also to prevent snakes from slithering up their legs. Footwear was particularly important for snake protection. Cowboys wore high leather boots that extended well above the ankle, providing a barrier against snake fangs. They often reinforced their boots with additional leather or even metal plates in areas where snakes were most likely to strike. The outer layer served as armor against the elements and dangers of trail life. Heavy canvas or leather chaps protected legs from thorns and brush, while also providing an additional barrier against snake bites. Leather vests and jackets were often reinforced with extra layers in critical areas. Modern outdoor enthusiasts still use these same layering principles. Merino wool base layers, insulating mid layers, and weather-resistant outer shells create the same protection system cowboys relied on. It's like wearing a portable climate control system that adapts to changing conditions. Proper clothing kept cowboys alive, but proper nutrition kept them strong enough to face each new day. The chuck wagon, mobile kitchen, and social center. The chuck wagon was more than just a food source. It was the heart of cowboy camp life. Cookie, the camp cook, was often the most important person on the trail after the trail boss. He not only prepared meals but also served as doctor, barber, and sometimes counselor to homesick cowboys. Cookie's responsibilities extended far beyond cooking. He maintained the wagon's supplies, planned meals based on available ingredients, and often served as the camp's unofficial timekeeper. His call to meals organized the day's activities, and his evening preparations signaled the transition from work to rest. But the chuck wagon had a hidden safety function. It created a central gathering point that helped keep dangerous animals, including snakes, at bay. The constant activity, cooking fires, and human presence created a zone of safety in the wilderness. Cowboys would gather around the wagon for meals and socializing, creating a protective circle of human activity. The food itself was designed for survival. Beans provided protein and fiber, salt pork supplied essential fats, and coffee delivered caffeine for those long night watches. It wasn't gourmet, but it kept men alive and alert in dangerous conditions. Cookie often supplemented basic supplies with wild plants, game, and other foraged foods when available. Meal preparation was a complex logistical challenge. Cookie had to plan meals that could be prepared with limited water, cooked over open fires, and served to hungry men who might be called away at any moment. He also had to ensure that food remained safe to eat, despite the lack of refrigeration and the constant exposure to dust and weather. Modern camping meals still follow these same principles: high energy, long-lasting, and easy to prepare. The chuck wagon's influence can be seen in everything from military field kitchens to modern RV designs. Good food sustained the body, but protection required more than just nutrition. Firearms and protection, tools for survival, not just show.
Every cowboy carried a gun, and it wasn't for dramatic shootouts like in the movies. Firearms were essential tools for protection against wild animals, including aggressive snakes. A well-placed shot could eliminate a threatening rattlesnake before it could strike, and the sound of gunfire could scare off larger predators. The choice of firearm was crucial, and often reflected a cowboy's experience and specific needs. The Colt single-action Army revolver was popular for its reliability and stopping power, while rifles like the Winchester 1873 provided accuracy at longer ranges. Many cowboys carried both, understanding that different situations required different tools.
Cowboys also used guns for signaling across long distances and for hunting fresh meat when supplies ran low. But they were careful about when and how they used firearms. Unnecessary noise could spook cattle or attract unwanted attention from rustlers or hostile groups. Ammunition was precious and had to be conserved carefully. Cowboys learned to make every shot count, whether they were defending against threats or hunting for food. They often carried reloading supplies and knew how to maintain their weapons in harsh conditions with limited resources. The psychological impact of firearms was often as important as their practical use. The knowledge that they could defend themselves gave cowboys confidence to face the dangers of trail life. However, experienced hands knew that avoiding dangerous situations was always preferable to fighting their way out of them. The key was knowing when to use force and when to avoid confrontation entirely. It's a principle that applies to modern outdoor safety. Preparation and awareness prevent most dangerous situations. Firearms provided protection, but the best early warning system had 4 legs and a keen nose. Guard dogs, 4-legged early warning systems. Many cattle drives included specially trained dogs that served as living alarm systems. These weren't herding dogs, they were guardians whose job was to detect and deter threats before they reached the sleeping cowboys. A good guard dog could smell a snake, wolf, or human intruder long before any cowboy would notice. The selection and training of guard dogs was a specialized skill. Cowboys looked for dogs with specific traits: keen senses, loyalty, courage, and the intelligence to distinguish between real threats and harmless wildlife. These dogs underwent extensive training to respond appropriately to different types of dangers. The relationship between cowboys and their guard dogs went beyond mere utility. These animals became trusted companions who shared the hardships and dangers of trail life. Cowboys often formed deep bonds with their dogs, and the loss of a good guard dog was mourned as deeply as the loss of a human companion. Guard dogs were also trained to work with the night watch system. They learned to patrol specific areas, to respond to whistle commands, and to alert guards to threats without creating unnecessary noise that might spook the cattle. Modern research confirms that dogs can detect snakes by scent from considerable distances, making them excellent natural snake detectors. Their hearing is also far superior to humans, allowing them to detect the subtle sounds of approaching predators or intruders long before human guards would notice. Today's campers and hikers often bring dogs for companionship, but they're also getting a sophisticated early warning system that's been proven effective for over 150 years. The key is understanding how to read your dog's signals and respond appropriately to their warnings. Dogs provided early warning, but fire created the ultimate barrier against nighttime dangers.
Fire management, light, warmth, and protection.
Cowboys were masters of fire management, using flames for cooking, warmth, light, and protection. A well-maintained campfire created a circle of safety that most wild animals, including snakes, would avoid. The light helped guards spot approaching threats, while the smoke helped repel insects and some smaller creatures. Fire building was both art and science. Cowboys had to create fires that would burn steadily through the night without constant attention, yet could be controlled to prevent dangerous spread. They learned to select the right types of wood and fuel for different purposes: hardwoods for long-burning coals, softwoods for quick heat, and specific materials for smoke production. But fire was also dangerous on the prairie, where a single spark could ignite a grass fire that could travel for miles. Cowboys developed techniques for containing fires, banking coals for overnight warmth, and completely extinguishing flames when necessary. They often dug fire pits and surrounded them with rocks to prevent spread. The positioning of fires within the camp was strategic. Cowboys placed fires to provide maximum light coverage for guards while minimizing the risk to sleeping areas and equipment. They also considered wind direction to ensure smoke would blow away from sleeping cowboys, but might still deter approaching animals. Fire maintenance required constant attention and specialized knowledge. Cowboys learned to read fires like weather, understanding when flames needed more fuel, when coals were ready for cooking, and when fires were becoming dangerous. They developed techniques for preserving coals overnight and rekindling fires quickly in the morning. The psychological benefits were just as important as the practical ones. A campfire provided a gathering place where tired, lonely men could share stories, sing songs, and maintain morale during difficult times. It transformed a dangerous wilderness into something resembling home, even if just for a few hours. Fire provided protection and comfort, but clean water was essential for survival itself. Water management and hygiene, staying healthy on the trail.
Clean water was often scarce on cattle drives, but cowboys developed methods for finding, purifying, and conserving this precious resource. They learned to read the landscape for signs of water, green vegetation, animal trails, and certain rock formations that indicated springs or streams.
Water location skills were passed down from experienced hands to newcomers. Cowboys learned to identify specific plants that only grew near water sources, to follow animal tracks to hidden springs, and to recognize geological formations that indicated underground water. Some could even smell water from considerable distances.
When water was questionable, they'd boil it or add a few drops of whiskey or vinegar to kill harmful bacteria. They also understood the importance of staying hydrated, especially during hot weather when dehydration could quickly become life-threatening. Water storage and conservation were constant challenges. Cowboys used canvas water bags, wooden barrels, and metal containers to transport water, but all of these had limitations. They learned to minimize water waste while ensuring everyone had enough to drink, and they developed techniques for making brackish or muddy water more palatable.
Personal hygiene was challenging, but important for preventing disease and maintaining morale. Cowboys would wash when possible, change clothes regularly, and keep their bedrolls clean and dry. Poor hygiene could lead to infections, skin problems, and other health issues that could be fatal far from medical help. They also understood the connection between water quality and snake activity. Snakes were often found near water sources, so cowboys had to balance their need for water with the increased danger of snake encounters. They developed techniques for safely approaching and using water sources in snake country. Clean water kept cowboys healthy, but mental strength kept them sane in an insane world. Mental toughness, the ultimate survival tool.
Perhaps the most important cowboy survival skill was mental resilience. Life on the trail was lonely, dangerous, and physically demanding. Cowboys had to maintain focus and determination, despite constant threats, uncomfortable conditions, and separation from family and civilization.
The psychological challenges of trail life were immense. Cowboys faced the constant stress of knowing that death could come at any moment from stampedes, weather, disease, accidents, or violence. They had to function effectively despite chronic sleep deprivation, poor nutrition, and physical discomfort that would overwhelm most modern people. They developed mental techniques for dealing with fear, including the ever-present threat of snake bites and other dangers. Many cowboys carried good luck charms, said prayers, or developed personal rituals that helped them stay calm and focused. They also relied on humor and camaraderie to maintain morale during difficult times. Stress management was crucial for survival. Cowboys learned to compartmentalize their fears and focus on immediate tasks rather than dwelling on potential dangers. They developed mental disciplines that allowed them to function effectively despite constant anxiety and uncertainty. Decision-making under pressure was a critical skill. Cowboys had to make life-or-death choices quickly, often with incomplete information, and no time for second-guessing. They developed intuitive decision-making processes that combined experience, observation, and instinct. The ability to stay calm under pressure, make quick decisions, and adapt to changing conditions was often the difference between life and death. These mental skills were just as important as any physical tool or technique, and they're still valuable for anyone facing challenging outdoor conditions today. These 12 cowboy survival techniques represent more than just historical curiosities. They're time-tested methods for staying alive when rattlesnakes and other dangers lurk in every shadow. What's remarkable is how accessible these techniques remain today, from the simple rope circle that deters serpents to the layered clothing systems that regulate body temperature in harsh conditions. Modern campers, hikers, and outdoor enthusiasts can still benefit from cowboy wisdom about reading weather, choosing safe campsites, and maintaining mental toughness when facing nature's challenges. The same principles that kept cowboys alive in rattlesnake country can help today's adventurers stay safe in the wilderness. Start with one or two techniques that appeal to you most, perhaps the strategic campsite selection or the snake deterrent rope circle approach. If you have enjoyed rustling up the past with us, then go ahead and lasso that like button and subscribe for more interesting facts from the Wild West historian.